This video is sponsored by NordVPN. I use NordVPN via its lovely, simple interface to transport myself effortlessly into otherwise region-locked content zones, which has been especially useful for catching motorsport and TV content from across the globe. Their thousands of high-speed servers have made it pretty painless to just click a server of my choice and be connected in seconds. That's it really. It will work on your desktop or mobile devices and is compatible with most operating systems and even has a lightweight Chrome browser extension. And as you can run 6 simultaneous connections, you can make sure you're double encrypting your data on every device. Chainbear subscribers can get a 70% off a 3-year plan, plus an extra month free on top of that by going to nordvpn.org/chainbear or using coupon code CHAINBEAR. That's nordvpn.org/chainbear. A draft F1 calendar was presented to the teams last week, and while nothing has been officially published, it's understood that the calendar is 23 races long and included a new race in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. It also included the Vietnam and Netherlands tracks originally due for 2020 debuts before being cancelled due to everything. Meanwhile, rumours abound that Interlagos will not be on the calendar and that, at some point in the future, the Brazilian race will be moved to a new track in Rio de Janeiro that is set to be built where a rainforest currently sits. Now, ignoring the ethical issues of everything I just said and the ethical issues of the calendar in general, because that's a huge can of worms that, while valuable to discuss, is not for now, or at least not for this video. So ignoring all of that, there are a couple of very important questions that need asking as we continue to see the evolution of the F1 calendar into its next state of being. One is, how many races is too many races? The other follows from seeing a raft of emergency cameos from tracks both abandoned and never utilised by F1 that have excited fans and made them wonder what could be if F1 actually used the circuits everyone wanted. So the question is, are we picking the right tracks? And are we too frequently just showcasing countries with bazillions to spend on clinically opulent architecture projects and ignoring exciting organic racetracks? And let's start with this latter point then. Obviously, there's always going to be unsettled debate over which racetracks are the best or even which ones are good. For example, I think people were more excited for the return of Imola than any other of the 2020 substitute tracks, but despite it being a genuinely thrilling racetrack and a heck of a ride for the drivers, it's not quite ready for wheel-to-wheel racing in modern F1. The cars have got too big and, well, we know the story with dirty air overtaking and all that. This is a problem that can be solved as F1 moves to improve the cars, an ongoing project which will hopefully reap rewards over the next decade and open up more tracks as viable options. Furthermore, we need to ask, can a track support the genuine world-class top-tier event that F1 wants and needs itself to be? Favourite golden oldies like Interlagos and Gilles Villeneuve have had to make costly upgrades in the last decade to get their infrastructure to the level that F1 demands in the 21st century. And can your track geographically manage to host a race? Paul Ricard is a fancy racing circuit with none of the highways needed to manage the traffic in and out on a race weekend, so we need to pick wisely here. Also, we need to be real here. Money ends a lot of conversations. No one is really much a fan of Yas Marina, but Abu Dhabi's humongous contract with F1, including finale hosting fees, pays a lot of the bills, so we have to accept some compromise for events like this. Even if I wish they'd spend all their money on making the track, better. And perhaps most controversially, I've been seeing more and more people just getting tired of Monaco. Whatever your personal opinion, a lot of fans, young and old, though admittedly skewed younger, and these fans are valid too, they just know Monaco is going to be a bore, particularly on the Sunday because it's too small to have a meaningful racing in modern F1. And they're not without a point. But my point is, Monaco is a heritage race and an awesome challenge to boot. F1 is an old sport and wears its history with pride. And you can't help but agree that F1 keeping its history present and proud is important, particularly as that history is a big part of F1's value. And value, yes, in terms of how much financial investment it attracts, but also in terms of how important competing in the sport is to drivers and teams that saw heroes of old risk it all across the same landscapes. F1 today should fly past the tobacconist corner at Monaco like Graham Hill once did. That's a big part of F1. Places like Monza, Silverstone, Imola, Spa and more are all woven into the sport's long journey from ragtag gangs of oily mechanics in a makeshift garage to the slick 1,000-person operations of today. Now obviously not all circuits, old or new, are good. There's no simple formula that makes a circuit magic. Spa and Imola are organic, they seem to be part of the very geography beneath them, flowing and diving through hills and valleys, darting between trees and around unsettling cambers. There's a challenge in clinging on to whatever the earth deemed fit to carve. Istanbul and the Circuit of Americas use and exploit their geography. The climbs and undulations are enhanced to add more to the character and challenge of the circuit. Despite being modern Tilke tracks, they seem to come alive and want to tell you something. They still evoke. Silverstone, by contrast, is incredibly flat and has evolved massively from its origins. But each corner seems to be a dare. Come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. The driver, the car, both goaded into risking wringing an extra tenth out. Similarly, Baku, while clunky, let's be honest, seems to be cajoling you into having a high-speed street crash. And because it uses real roads, nothing is perfect. The straights are kinky, the corners aren't quite the clinical radii seen at, say, Abu Dhabi. So with all that, we come to how many Grand Prix are too many Grand Prix for one season. Now your mileage may vary, but I personally found myself nodding along with something Jenny Gao said in a 5 Live podcast. No one is buzzing for 23 races apart from the people that make money from it. 23 races is a lot. I mean, I'm tired just thinking about it. It's exhausting as the audience, as a pundit, and let alone being a member of the team. Maybe this excites you as a prospect, and that's cool. Maybe you're a more the merrier type, and do let me know if you think this way. I'm genuinely interested. But I do think that this many races is not only punishing for the travelling F1 crews, but also devalues every Grand Prix if they're just going for 10 a penny. I already did a video talking about how in 2020 each race is worth more points-wise, as across a season you've less opportunity to gather points or make up for mistakes, and any weekend that ends up as a write-off is much more costly in a 17-race season than a 23-race one. But this devaluing notion holds in terms of prestige. Limiting supply increases demand. Each Grand Prix is more valuable, more special if there are a few of them knocking about. We should be looking forward to every race, not feeling a bit tired of it all, as sometimes can be the case. Especially in recent years when we get to the end of a season in December and we've still got Abu Dhabi to go. Lots of Yas Marina hate today, I know. I wonder if anyone in the comments feels a bit differently about the place. But there are a lot of circuits and countries that want to be part of the action, who Liberty want to be part of the calendar, and who we, the fans, want F1 to be racing on. So maybe we can share the space. After all the buzz of the surprise additions to the 2020 calendar, there was a bit of abstract talk of creating rotating spaces on the calendar for favoured tracks that don't have a permanent spot. Like the old Hockenheim-Nürburgring swap for the German Grand Prix, but on a bigger scale. And this sits very closely to an idea I've had for a while, which is bigger, broader sharing of the calendar in a rotating fashion. Let's say we limit a season to 20 races. I chose that because it's a nice round number, but this could be anything that works. Let's also say we have 25 venues that we really want to be part of F1. Good races for any of the reasons covered earlier: money, heritage, being tracks from heaven. In this case, you have a pool of 25 venues and a calendar of 20 races, so to make it work, each venue agrees to do 4 out of every 5 seasons, one way or another. It doesn't have to be perfectly even like this, missing exactly every 5th race, but as long as it's 4 out of 5. And this is adjustable, like if the pool was 30, venues would host 2 out of every 3 years. And maybe Liberty might have a fiddle, so some tracks get more regular slots than others, or just to make sure that every season has a minimum number of heritage races and a minimum number of money races. But this is the basic premise. So yes, we still have to deal with Yas Marina showing up, but maybe a little less often. And now we can have Portimao and Imola and Turkey or whatever in regular rotation, so they're still part of Formula One. We don't have to completely bin them off to make room for a race around Jeff Bezos' back garden if he starts waving his checkbook around. And we don't have to have a Grand Prix every 5 minutes to get all the tracks we want or every last penny from any country with an eye on the spotlight. It's just a thought. It's a bit half-baked, and contracts and commercial rights always end up being peppercorns in the cookie dough, but something like this would open up F1 to a world of possibility if they can make it work, which they might not. But let me know what you think in the comments on this one, and we can solve this. And then Liberty will thank us. Just you wait.